How you doing,
Damn,
Warm?
damn! You really inform Azula. Um, so I guess depend. Okay, so your definition of liberalism. What's your definition of it? Because I think that's where either we're gonna have a discussion or not.
Yeah, it's gonna be the. I believe what is it? It's the big L, like the classical liberal, like private property rights, inalienable rights, a desire of a democracy. Just basically your modern Western societies that we just kind of take for granted.
So I guess I do disagree, but not necessarily in the I guess normal way we would
Okay,
disagree.
what are
Um,
we disagreeing about?
I don't think everyone's a liberal. I
Oh,
generally don't think.
Uh,
And the
I
reason
mean,
I'm
like
gonna and the
there's a little
re
bit of hyperbole. I'll give you like the gist of it. So, generally speaking, why there are people that divorce themselves from liberalism, most of the time they agree with liberalism. So let me see if I can explain myself. Liberalism has been the dominant philosophy in the Western world since the 20th century. It's basically completely taken over, and after like the drop off from fascism in the mid 20th century, it just completely took over
Yep.
everybody's life. And so your grandparents.
Yeah, that is a dead mic. Damn.
I like to blame my cat. My cat was was playing with it,
That
playing
is that
playing
is
with a
kind
wire.
of that is kind of hilarious. I'm not even going to lie.
Sorry about that. Okay. Do you
It's
want to
alright.
see the cat? This is
Yeah,
the
sure, sure.
troublemaker. She is. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know. You don't like being picked up. This is her. She is.
Oh,
She
sweet.
hates being held. That's why she's trying to get away. She doesn't like being held, but she's my little baby. You can see her.
So
All
I
right, all right. I'll
guess
put you down. All right. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
so I
yeah,
guess
yeah.
like the
Relax,
way
relax. It's not the
I
end of
guess
the
the
world.
way like I will tackle a bit of this is I do think I mean I would agree. I
Sorry.
think a lot of people are pragmatic to liberalism, and I mean I'm very pragmatic to it. Like I'll even
Well, it's not
agree.
that they're pragmatic. It's that in general, because you were born in a liberal society, you end up actually just taking these things for granted, and you've already implemented them in what you would consider your little quixotic society if you have one. Like you have ideas to make the world better, yet for some reason like still argue for you still argue for like the ownership of private property. You still argue that there should be democracies. You still argue that that contract law is a thing. You still argue that there should be like equal protection under the law. Like these are all very liberal policies and is not the norm historically speaking.
That I don't. I guess the way I'm gonna tackle this is more through foreign policy lens because going through poli sci going yes, I would agree. Western democracies have a very liberal lens of things, especially through the UN, which is often brought up because if you read philosophers like Immanuel Kant, John Locke, those people, they talk about ideas that would later be influenced now. The UN is a very big example of that. Um, but if you take a step and you look at that and you cast that to its own idea, there's also the theory of realism, and realism is basically the ideas of nations kind of protecting their own selves but then looking at their own valued national interest as a whole. And I guess the reason why I push this is for me specifically, in terms of a foreign policy lens, and even in certain I'd say policy ideas that I support, I don't necessarily support it through a liberal lens. It's more through a realist lens.
Liberal lenses and realist lenses often align. There's a reason why liberalism is
No,
the
I
dominant
would I would
philosophy
disagree with
because it
that.
worked. It
I would disagree
works.
with that.
How so? What would be
Um,
differing from realism to liberalism?
Realism to liberalism.
Yeah.
For real, so for example, Machiavelli is, the biggest example of Machiavelli's a very big example of realism, which is basically manipulation of the public and military alliances. He talks a lot about how you use the media, you use rhetoric, and you basically use that a lot. A lot of democratic nations,
Do you think liberals don't have any Machiavellians? Like, of course there would be.
they have certain Machiavellians,
But like that's still
it's
compatible
not.
with liberalism. I'm failing to see how that's incompatible with liberalism. There are politicians that would exist and would have Machiavellian desires, but still fight for liberalism. So like, those aren't like
Yes,
antithetical.
so yes, I would agree, but I'd also say there is a difference between the two. There is a strong will difference between there's a very strong difference between
I
realism
mean, like a
and
Machiavellian would like in a liberal society would just use liberalism to their own like to their own benefit.
let me try. I mean, you could use that. I mean, you could make that argument. But a lot of realist theory focuses on the national interests of people. I know, for example, one nation that does that to this day is France. France, if you look at their like the way that they operate their military, isn't necessarily in terms of we're going to work with everyone else. They're more focused on their own national interests. For West Africa, there's been a recently there's been a big thing on a lot of coup d'états around that time. And France's national interest is okay. We're going to go in there, and because they are our former colonies, and we have a bunch of military alliances with them, we're going to go in and help them. Well, either help them or more times than not, send in military and try and quell the coup d'états.
Okay. I don't have anything to add to this. I fail to see how this is going to have a problem with liberalism. You're talking about France. It's one of the most liberal countries out there.
France, in terms of foreign policy, is not really. I'm saying in terms of. I'm saying the
Give me one
policy
quick
is.
second. I gotta just move some laundry real quick. It will only take me
Alright.
less than a minute. You know, I blame the timers on a washing machine. Like I put a very specific time and I check it. Still has like a few minutes remaining. Sorry, I mean like I'm a little lost. How exactly is France like illiberal? Like you're saying that like having wars
In terms
is
of, I'm
somehow
saying in terms
not
of international
liberal. Wait,
relations.
there's lots and lots of liberal societies that very much fight for like liberalism. So like I fail
But
to see
I'm
how
saying,
that's
I'm
incompatible.
saying, but I'm saying in terms of national interest, there's a when it comes to especially what's the
Like, are you
most
talking about
recent?
France in terms of conquest? Like, what?
No, I'm saying in terms of international relations.
How is
But
France not liberal?
I'm saying I'm saying in the terms of foreign policy, right?
I hear you
I'm not
out.
saying
I'm
they're not.
saying
I'm
that
saying
that's still very
I'm
liberal.
saying they act more. I'm saying they're more realist in their thinking.
What is the difference between the realism and liberal?
Realism focuses on the nation itself. They don't really think of
That
in
would
terms of
also work
international
within
relations.
liberalism. That is not antithetical to
No, no,
liberalism.
they're two completely different things.
What?
Realism and yes, they are. Yes, they
How are
are.
they? No, how are they antithetical? I asked you how they were antithetical, and you
They're
gave one
anti
example, and I'm
because
saying
one folk.
you can be favoring your own nation and still be liberal. That's not like a tenet that like oh you have to care for every other nation in the world or like any nation that you deal trade with. No, that's not what liberalism even entails. Where did you get that?
That's in poli sci. That's from the study of poli sci and specifically international relations.
I mean, like, just pulling up the Wikipedia, that doesn't appear to be like a core tenet of liberalism.
That's
So, like, I mean, where are you getting this information?
from my college textbook from Harvard
Cool.
professors
Source?
that work on the study of international
Cool.
relations.
Source?
Source?
Yeah.
Why would I have to source you when it's? Oh, I mean, do you want me to
I'm not
source
going
you
to
the
take your
book
word
itself?
for it. Show it to me. I
You
will
want me to?
literally
Okay.
change. If you
Okay.
show me
Sure.
an
Sure.
academic
Sure. Sure.
source, I
Sure.
will
Sure.
literally
I
change my
will
position
send.
right in
Hold
front
on.
of you.
Hold on. Let me send the book. I will send the book. Let me get the authors. what's the fucking authors? Is it Goldstein? It's Joshua Goldstein.
While you look for that, I'm gonna check my laundry real quick. Sorry.
Since Aminder's wanting the
All
fucking
right, so it tends to
Aminder
be.
wants.
You said earlier that it tends to be very that. Well, let me try to explain myself. I've said liberalism tends to be very individualistic, and one could extend that into the nation state, and as to whether or not that it cares for itself, or if it cares for. Oh, where'd Worm go? Let me get you back in. So,
I don't like Discord system. But go ahead.
I'm going to ask you here. So let's. It's totally possible that a liberal system could say that it favors itself in like an individualistic sense, and it's also possible for the liberal system to be like, no, we want to reach out, we want to have allies with the nations. Both of those are completely valid.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't disagree on. I don't disagree with that. So the book I sent you, and if you need me to fetch the actual PDF for it, I will.
You don't
But
need to cite me
basically,
the
again,
entire PDF. I mean, just show
you
me
want
an
me to cite?
academic
Do you
source
want
that
me? Do
actually
you want me to
presents
cite?
something of substance there, right?
All right. So let me. I will. Let me pull up.
Because
Let
I've
me
just
pull up a
explained
very.
how why I think it's not the case, right? You're
Yeah, that's
saying
fine.
that it must be that case, and you're saying that you have an academic source. In which case, if you can find that, then I'd be glad to change my position right in front of you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine.
Yo, dude, this dragon is fucking tough. He's like really strong. He's got a lot of armor, and he's got the poise of lords, and I don't appreciate it.
Here's an actual thingy. Oh, I will. Let me just send this in the thingy, and then I can actually. Blah, 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 blah. Here. Send it there. Give me a phone.
It would be easier if you didn't leave 3 times in a fight. Relax, the dragon will be there. 2002, before the U.S. invasion of Iraq, leading realists, predominantly among the 33 international relations scholars, signing a New York Times advertisement warning that war with Iraq is not of American national interest. Thus, realists do not always favor using military power, although recognize the necessity of doing so at times. The target of IR scholars' ad was the group of foreign policy makers in the Bush administration known as the neoconservatives, who advocating more energetic use of American power, especially military force, to accomplish
That wasn't even
ambitious
the
and
best,
moralistic
better one to
goals
pick.
such as democratizing the Middle East. I'm lost as to how this is antithetical to liberalism.
Here, this is the actual. No, here's the actual.
You're basically showing me liberal fights with another liberal.
There's the actual. That's the actual.
Realists
That's the actual
tend to
thing I was
treat
supposed to
political
say.
power as separate from and predominant over morality, ideology, and other social and economic aspects of life. For realists, ideologies do not matter much, nor do religions or other cultural factors in which states justify their actions. Realists state very different religions, ideologies, or economic systems with quite similar in their actions with regards to national power. Thus, realists assume that the IR can be best, although not exclusively, explained the choices by the choices of states operating as autonomous actors, rationally pursuing their own interests in an international system of sovereign states without central authority. How is this not liberalism? This is not antithetical.
Because liberalism, because a lot of liberal nations so the way the book specifically lays it out is the way liberalism works is a lot of nations tend to use the UN. So for example, when we talk about the invasion of Afghanistan that happened in 2001, that was more of a liberal effort because you had so many nations sign up together and then they would work together on this.
Yeah, but then
for
there's
example,
also liberals that disagree with that position. Like, it's just liberals fighting with liberals here.
Yes, but again, in
Like
IR, it's
being war
specifically
hawkish is not like oh well that makes you a liberal. Like you realize that there's lots of like ideologies that are
yes,
war
but
hawkish.
realism. Yes, but realism is a school of thought that's been around for, I would say,
That's fine, but I'm
yeah,
saying
it's
it's
been
not
over 2000
antithetical.
over two
You're
thousand
saying
years.
that these aren't liberals, these are realists. And I'm saying no, it's probably like closer to a Venn diagram where you have
No, and
uh,
Amender, I gotta
realist
disagree on
liberals.
that.
Okay,
I
why?
generally got to from an IR perspective. I have to disagree here.
Why?
Why? Because again, if we look at France specifically in terms of ECOWAS and specifically how they've been sending in military
But
troops,
France is
they've done
super
this. They've
liberal.
done no. If in
Yes, it
turn, okay,
is.
okay. One thing that you forget in the thing I sent you,
I think
it's
what you're getting.
it's regardless of ideology. For
I
France and West
understand that. I
Africa,
understand that.
yes.
You could end up being a realist, but then have liberal values. I'm not saying that you're there just because it's like you're a liberal for liberalism's sake. I'm saying you hold liberal values, so I called you a
No,
liberal.
because you don't necessarily agree with the UN. Like
What?
one tenet specifically that ties with realism
So
is
if
that you
you
don't
argue
necessarily
like
agree with the UN, or
80%
you
of
don't even use the
liberalism,
UN to get the goals that you want.
if you argue 80% of liberalism, I'd call you a liberal. It's not a hot take, I think.
It, but that's not how you use the fucking term. Like
What?
I understand that's not how you
What do
use
you
the fucking
mean? Why,
term.
why can't I
But
use
in
the term?
international relations,
I'll bring up the
that's not how
axioms
you
and
use the
determine
fucking
whether or not
term.
you're a liberal right now. We can do it right now. You want
Okay,
to do it?
let's go ahead. Let's go ahead.
All right.
Go ahead.
All right. Just gonna let myself die.
From an international sense, I guarantee you, I do not come across of it as a
All right.
liberal. But go
So
ahead.
I'll let. And by the way, I'll let everybody else participate if you want to find out if you're a liberal or not. All right. So there's going to be very simple yes or no questions. I understand that there will likely be nuance in your brain. Just go whatever is closest. Okay.
I
And each one of these are going to be, do you believe in dot dot dot? Okay, so do you believe in? Okay, so the first one, do you believe in individual liberty?
in the middle. I'm in the middle of that.
Yes or no?
I don't think you can answer yes or no
Why
with
not?
that. Why not?
It's
Because I
very
think
simple.
one you have no, I would actually disagree with that. I think a lot of these come down to nuance and comes down to what is the actual what is pertaining to the specific
Is there
area,
any of these
right?
that you
I
lean
think people should
down?
be hold on. I think
Do
people
you
in
think
very
that it tends to be better one way or another?
again, I think it depends. I don't think there's a
I'm
general
saying
yes or no
60
here.
40 it, man. I understand it depends.
I'm saying it and I'm trying to tell you, I think it genuinely depends on
Just give me a
the
yes or no.
topic and issue.
Just give me a yes or no.
Aminder, I'm telling you, it
Just give me
depends
a yes
on
or
the
no.
situation.
Do you believe in individual liberty?
uh, to an extent, yes.
Okay. Do
To
you
an
believe in a
extent, no. It
consent to be
depends.
governed?
It generally depends.
Do you believe in a consent to be governed?
Yeah, that, yeah.
Do you believe in political equality?
For everyone? Uh,
Political equality.
not for everyone, no.
Okay. Do you believe in a right to private property?
Yes, except very big
Do
corporations.
you believe
Yes.
in equality before the law?
Yes, and I think we need to do
Do you
better,
believe in a market
right, to
economy?
actually fix that specifically.
Do you believe in a market economy?
Yeah,
Do you believe in civil rights?
yeah,
Do you believe in human rights, as in the inalienable rights of life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, etc.?
yeah, I would agree.
Do you believe in democracy?
No.
Do you believe in secularism, as in a separation of church and state?
Yes, I would agree with
Do you believe in
secularism.
economic freedom of expression, free to do business?
Yes.
Do you believe in a political freedom of expression, as in free to vote and run?
50-50.
Just give me a yes or no. Give me a 60-40 here. I understand there's nuance. Just pick which one slightly that you lean.
Mm, Yes, with a caveat.
Okay. Freedom of speech.
Is it unregulated or just freedom of speech?
Just freedom of speech.
Yeah.
Freedom of the press.
Yeah.
Freedom
need
of
it.
assembly.
Yeah.
Freedom of religion.
Yeah.
Do you believe in constitutional government?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Do you believe in privacy rights?
Yeah.
Okay. Based on your current score here, you have scored no on 2 of these questions out of 18. You are at minimum an 89% liberal. Because you scored greater than 75%, you're a liberal. Don't fret.
And how do
Liberalism
you
has been
define
the
it?
dominant
How would you
philosophy of the
define?
21st century,
Hold
and
on.
almost all sane
I answered
individuals
yes to a couple
are,
of
in
those.
fact, liberal. Still don't
I-
think you're a liberal? Well, you
I-
can try again.
Amender, you could keep using that fucking test, using yes or no. But again, I answered yes on a couple of them. I don't actually really agree with.
Yeah, I know that
But
there's
I'm saying yes
caveats.
because
That's
you
fine.
said either yes
but
or
I'm
no.
saying that you're basically the reason why you're answering yes to most of these questions is because Western society has been this way for over 100 years. So it's all you know, and so you assume that it works. That's basically what
I
it
would
is.
argue
That's
for
why
liberal-
you bake them into your idea. You have
I
some
would argue
different
for
quixotic
liberalism-
idea of a better society, but
Amender.
ultimately, a lot of the positions that you have are in fact just liberal positions.
Amender, I straight up said I don't necessarily like democracy, and I straight up what did I say? I don't think everyone should politically have the same rights. I think that is two very, especially the no. Those are two very hard pressing no's against liberalism.
I'm
Very
saying that
hard
you hold a
goes.
lot of liberal values, and so I call you a liberal.
That doesn't.
Anyway,
yeah.
we have a
Okay,
person
but
who
if I'm
has some-
if I'm antithetical to the actual government itself, if I don't necessarily support government, which I also want to add back to realism theory. Realism theory.
That's fine. You
doesn't
can still
really
be a
care-
realist. I
Hold
still
on,
think you possess a
hold
lot
on.
of liberal positions.
Yes, but yes, to an extent, I would agree with that. But what I'm
So that's
saying
what I'm
is,
saying, you're a
hold
liberal.
on.
Everyone's a liberal.
Hold on. I am trying to get to a specific point on what I brought up, which was France, right? You can have certain positions that are more liberal,
Google.
right? And I
Is
would agree with
France
that.
liberal.
Hold on, Minder. You're deviating from the fucking point.
Is
I'm
France
saying on
liberal?
a internet. Hold on. I am saying from an international relations perspective, specifically when it comes to how France operates, they do not operate from a liberalistic point of view. They operate from a realistic point of view. Yes, they can be very similar, but they are completely fucking different.
I understand that
ideologies,
the
and they're completely
feeling of it
different
is
theories.
different, but because the liberal perspective often ends up being the realist perspective, then it doesn't mean that they are antithetical. Like I said earlier, it could be a Venn diagram.
Yes,
we're
they
running
can be
around in
antithetical.
circles at this point. We can go ahead and let me see if I can. We're going to bring in another person.